All right, today we're going to be talking about using graphs to represent relationships. So starting off looking at this slide here, we've got a graph here. We've got a point A on there and a point B. First question is, what is the x-coordinate for A? So if you see on the graph with the x is down here, that's for the horizontal axis, and the y is here. So to get the x-coordinate for A, I'm just going to start at A and I'm going to read down to the x-axis here, and I see that it's at 2. Your next question there, what is the y-coordinate for A? Well, to get the y-coordinate for A, I'm just going to go over to the y-axis, and I see that I'm at 3. Okay? Now what I have there for A then is what we're going to call an ordered pair. And the reason I call it an ordered pair is because we have to put it in order with the x first and the y second. So for A, our ordered pair, our x value is 2, our y value is 3. So we put it in parentheses and we write 2 comma 3. Okay, so looking at B, point B, it says what is the ordered pair for point B? Again, if I look at point B, if I go down to the x, I see that I'm at 5. And if I go over to the y value for the second one, I see that that's at 1. So 5, 1 is our ordered pair for point B. Okay, so our ordered pair for point A was 2, 3, and our ordered pair for point B was 5, 1. Okay, looking at the next slide here, we've got a table, and you can see the top row of the table says numbers of cans, and that's going to be our x variable. The bottom row is the total cost, that's going to be our y variable. So the first question there, what's the total cost for 2 cans of cat food? Well, I can simply look at the table and see that for 2 cans, it's going to cost us 80 cents. So 80 cents is our cost there. The next question says, what ordered pair represents this relationship? Well, the number of cans is the x, so that's going to go first. It's 2 cans. And then the cost is our y variable. That's the second. So that is the 0.8. Okay, and then we could go ahead and put this on the graph. So I'm going to start at 0, 0, and I'm going to go over to the 2. I always go to the x first, and then I'm going to go up to the 0.8 and make my point. So what I'd like you to do right now is pause the video and check, and pause the video and then go ahead and plot the other points that are on there. And then when you're done with that, you can start the video again and check to make sure that you plotted them in the correct spot. All right, so here's what your graph should look like. We've got the 0, 0 on there. For 0 cans, of course, it's going to cost you $0. We've got the 1 and the 40 cents, the 2 and the 80 cents we already had on there, the 3 and the $1.20, and then the 4 and the $1.60 paired up on there, okay, and graphed. So we'll just leave the points there. We would not connect these points because we're not including anything in between the points. We're just specifically talking about these points. Then the last thing on this slide, it said describe in words how to graph the ordered pair. So it's just what I said when I went ahead and graphed the ordered pair 2 and 80 cents. You start at the 0, 0. We went right to, and then from there we went up to the 80 cents, and then we made our point. And then the last thing I want to say about this slide is just remember the ordered pairs here. So we'll just look at the ordered pair 2 and the 0.80. if somebody were to ask you what that represents in this situation, you would just say that it represents that 2 cans are going to cost you 80 cents. Okay, so 2 cans of cat food are going to cost 80 cents in this situation. That's what the ordered pair 2, 80 cents tells you. All right, on this slide is just some information here for you. What I'd like to draw your attention to is the definition for an ordered pair here. Okay, an ordered pair identifies the location of a point on a graph. Again, you got to make sure that you put the x coordinate first, the y coordinate second. Okay, the numbers for x and the number for y in an ordered pair, those are called the coordinates. Okay, so just remember, in an ordered pair, the x goes before y, just like it does in the alphabet. Okay, so in an ordered pair, you always do the x first before the y, just like it is in the alphabet. All right, keeping going here. This slide, again, is just an example of that cat food problem we just went through. So if that's something you'd like to take a look at a little further, you can do that. Otherwise, next here, the first question we have, this goes back to our stacks of cups in the last lesson and how high the stack is, depending on how many cups are in the stack. So the first thing it says to do is write each pair of values from the table into ordered pairs. So I'm just going to go through the first one here for you. Our first ordered pair would be the 1, 8. Okay, so we write that as, in parentheses as 1, 8. And then what you can do is go ahead and list the rest of those. So I'm just going to stop right here. You can pause it, go ahead and write those in, and then check to make sure that you wrote them correctly as ordered pairs. All right, so you can go ahead and check that your ordered pairs are correct. Then in number 2, it gives us the graph of 3 of those ordered pairs, and we just have to identify on the graph what 3 ordered pairs those are. So the first one here, if you notice, again, just follow it down to your x value. Well, that's at 1. And then over to the y, well, that's at 8. So that one's at 1, 8. The second point here, okay, if you follow that down, you're going to follow that down to 5. And then if you follow it over to the y, it's going to be at 12. So 5, 12 is that one. And then the last one, start at the point, follow it down to the x value. You'll follow that down to 10. And then go over to the y value. That's at 17. So your ordered pair there would be 10, 17. All right, next we're going to look at 2 more tables of ordered pairs, and we're going to go ahead and graph those. So for A, we've got the number of dogs for the x variable, and then number of legs for the y. So if we have 1 dog, okay, it's going to have 4 legs. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that on my graph here on the left. So 1, 4 is going to be right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and write that ordered pair next to it. Then our next point is at 2, 8. So 2 dogs would have 8 legs. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and write my ordered pair next to it. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the other graph now. In a second here, I'm going to have you pause this and finish both graphs. But I just want to jump over to the other one here. It's number of pieces of rope cut is our x variable, and then the length of each piece of rope, that's our y. So for the first one, 3, 12. So I'm going over to 3 and up to 12. And I'll make my point right there. and I'll go ahead and label that 312. Okay, the next one there was 4, 9. So I'm going to go over to 4 and then up to 9. Okay, now with the dog problem here, when the number of dogs goes up, the number of legs is going to go up. Okay, more dogs, more legs. Now the rope problem, what you're going to notice happening here is that the more pieces of rope we cut, the shorter each piece of rope gets. Okay, which makes sense if you have a certain length of rope and you start cutting it into more and more pieces, each piece is going to become shorter and shorter. So you're going to notice that pattern in the graph, and we'll go over that here when we're have it completed. But take a moment right now, pause the video, and go ahead and plot the rest of the points off the tables. All right, here's what your graphs should look like. Again, what I want to reiterate here, looking at the graph for the numbers of dogs and numbers of legs, you'll notice that our y increases as the x increases. Okay, you can see this in the table, that if you look at the x's, they're going up, and if you look at the y's, they're going up. When that happens, if y increases as x increases, your graph is going to go up as you go from left to right. And you can see that in this graph with the dogs. If I go from left to right, you'll notice that the points go up. Okay, they start going higher and higher. Now on the other graph, the number of pieces of rope cut and the length of each piece of rope, here you'll notice that the y value is decreasing as the x value increases. Now again, you can see that in the table. If you look at the bottom row, the y's, it goes 12, 9, 4.5, 4, 2. Those are going down, but if you look at the x's, they're going up, 3, 4, 8, 9, 18. Now in the graph, what you'll notice is, as you go from left to right, the points are going down. Okay, so what that tells me is if y decreases as x increases, the graph goes down as we go from left to right. And that's what you see in the graph with the rope. All right, now to finish up here, how is an ordered pair graphed? Well, we talked about this a couple of times, but the first value is graphed using the numbers on the horizontal axis, which is the x-axis, and then the second value is graphed using the numbers on the vertical axis, which is the y-axis. Your homework is not a worksheet. Your homework will be online. Again, just make sure you've got your notes here. Let me know, and I'll go ahead and assign that to you as soon as you have all the questions right in the video here.